Europe needed artillery fast. While Germany produced 345 PZH-2000s over 26 years, Poland signed a contract in August 2022 for 212 K9A1 howitzers, receiving the first 24 just 4 months later. By December 2025, every unit was delivered. 5 NATO countries have now ordered 862 K9s, over double Germany's entire output. How did South Korea become Europe's new arsenal while European industry stalled? The answer starts with the crisis that forced Poland's hand. After the Cold War, Europe scaled back its armies and defense budgets, convinced that large-scale land wars were a thing of the past. The so-called peace dividend meant artillery battalions shrank, ammunition stockpiles dwindled, and factories that once built tanks and heavy guns closed their doors or switched to civilian work. In Germany, the Panzerhaubitze 2000 project produced just 345 tracked howitzers between 1998 and 2008. 185 were for the Bundeswehr, and about 160 were for export. When the last hull left the line in 2008, there were no new orders large enough to keep production alive. For 16 years, not a single new PZH-2000 rolled out of a German factory. France. Caesar offered a different approach. It is a wheeled system, lighter and easier to deploy, but it is not a direct substitute for tracked heavy artillery. By 2022, France had produced around 400 Caesars, with pre-war output stuck at just 2 vehicles per month. Even as demand grew, ramping up to 8 or more per month would take years. Across Western Europe, the story was the same. Defense cuts and shrinking orders made it impossible for manufacturers to invest in new capacity. Skilled welders and engineers left for other industries, and the specialized supply chains for armored vehicles withered. By the late 2010s, no major tracked self-propelled howitzer was in serial production anywhere in Western Europe. The PZH-2000 line sat dormant, and Caesar's slow trickle could not fill the gap. When crisis hit, Europe's industrial base simply could not respond. The void was real, and for countries facing urgent threats, waiting years for European production was not an option. On July 27, 2022, Poland's armament agency signed a sweeping framework agreement with Hanwha of South Korea for as many as 672 K9 self-propelled howitzers. Just a month later, on August 26, 2022, the first executive contract locked in 212 K9A1 units for $2.4 billion, including ammunition, training, and logistics support. Poland's decision was driven by an urgent need. The country had transferred much of its own artillery to Ukraine and faced a real capability gap on its eastern border. The pace of delivery was unlike anything seen in recent European procurement. By December 2022, the first 24 K9A1 howitzers had already arrived in Poland and were issued to frontline units. This meant new, modern artillery was in Polish hands less than 4 months after contract signature, a timeline that European manufacturers could not approach. Over the next 3 years, shipments continued on schedule. By late 2025, all 212 K9A1 had been delivered, fully equipping Poland's new regiments and closing the gap left by donations to Ukraine. The contrast in speed was clear to procurement officials. For Polish procurement officials, the difference was clear. Hanwha could supply at scale, on time, and with the option for future local production. European suppliers, constrained by dormant factories and limited output, simply could not compete. Poland's rapid purchase of 212 guns set a new standard for artillery acquisition on the continent and signaled that the old rules of defense supply had changed. Finland moved early, signing its first K9 contract in 2017 for 48 howitzers drawn from South Korean army stocks. The deal, valued at 146 million euros, included training, spares, and maintenance. In 2022, Finland doubled its order, adding another 48 K9s as the security situation in Europe changed overnight. Deliveries for the second batch began soon after, bringing Finland's total to 96 K9s by the mid-2020s. Norway followed a similar path. In December 2017, the Norwegian Defense Materiel Agency agreed to purchase 24 K9 Vidar howitzers and 6 K10 ammunition vehicles for approximately 3.5 billion Norwegian kroner, or about $450 million. The initial batch arrived on schedule, and in April 2025, Norway exercised its option for 24 more K9 Vidars, signing a follow-on contract worth 5.6 billion Norwegian kroner, about $534 million. These new systems are earmarked for the Finnmark Brigade, pushing Norway's K9 fleet to 48 guns. Estonia built its artillery capability from scratch. Starting with a 2018 contract for 12 K9s, Estonia expanded its order in 2 additional tranches, reaching a total of 36 howitzers by 2026. The full program, including upgrades and support, is valued at about 120 million euros. Romania joined the group in July 2024, signing a contract for 54 K9 howitzers and 36 K10 ammunition vehicles. The deal, worth $920 million, schedules deliveries from 2026 onward. Across these 5 countries, Poland, Finland, Norway, Estonia, and Romania, Europe has committed to 862 K9 howitzers, each contract reflecting a mix of urgency, scale, and industrial partnership. Hanwha's production line in South Korea operates at a pace that European manufacturers have struggled to match for years. While Western Europe's tracked howitzer output slowed to a crawl, Hanwha kept building K9s for both domestic and export customers, maintaining a steady flow of skilled labor, supply chains, and assembly expertise. Analysts estimate Hanwha's main facility can produce more than 100 K9 howitzers per year, with some industry sources citing a notional capacity of 120 units annually. For each vehicle, the assembly and integration cycle takes about 6 months from start to finish. This kind of throughput is rare in the armored vehicle world, where complex systems and quality control often stretch delivery times into years. By comparison, France's Caesar, though a capable system in its own right, was produced at just 2 units per month before 2022. Even with emergency investments, Nexter's target is 70 to 80 guns per year by 2025. Still trailing Hanwha's demonstrated pace, the difference in cost is equally stark. Open contract values and defense market studies put a Korean-built K9 at roughly $3.5 to $4 million US per unit, several million less than most Western-tracked equivalents. That price includes options for technology transfer, local assembly, and support packages tailored to the customer's needs. For European buyers, the combination of rapid delivery, affordable price, and industrial partnership proved impossible to ignore. Orders that would have overwhelmed a dormant European line could be absorbed by Hanwha's continuous production model. The result is a decisive production advantage that locked in new dependencies, as armies across Europe found themselves relying on South Korean speed and scale to rebuild their artillery strength. Poland's Deputy Minister of Defense, when asked about the 2022 K9 contracts, pointed to clauses guaranteeing multi-year ammunition and spare parts supply. He said they insisted on logistics packages that cover not just initial stocks, but ongoing deliveries and rapid resupply in crisis. The contract requires Hanwha to maintain surge capacity and to stock strategic parts in Poland by 2026. A Hanwha export manager described how the company bundles training, technical support, and software updates into every major deal. For Poland and other NATO clients, Hanwha provides integrated support, including ammunition, maintenance, and crew training. The manager said the agreements specify timelines for parts delivery and that Hanwha has set up local hubs for faster response. A NATO logistics officer reviewing the new artillery landscape voiced a dilemma. Standardizing on K9 brings clear benefits, shared ammunition, common training, and easier maintenance. But it also creates a single point of failure. If South Korean supply is disrupted, several NATO armies could be affected at once. The officer said contingency protocols are being developed, but there is no easy substitute when most tracked howitzers come from one source. The question remains, can Europe balance speed and scale against the risks of such concentrated dependence? Europe now faces a dilemma with no easy answers. Relying on South Korean artillery has restored firepower almost overnight, but it has also placed critical supply lines, technology, and maintenance in the hands of a single foreign partner. If a crisis disrupts Korean production or exports, how resilient is Europe's new artillery backbone? At the same time, efforts to rebuild domestic capacity will demand years of investment, political consensus, and the return of skills that have faded away. Can European governments afford to wait that long? Or will the urgency of current threats keep them tied to external suppliers? With Poland building K9 howitzers under license, does the continent simply trade dependence on South Korea for a new reliance on a single European hub? Or is this a path back to true autonomy? Each direction carries its own risks, and the choice remains unresolved. Today, over half of Europe's new tracked artillery is South Korean. As Poland begins building K9s at scale, NATO's firepower depends on Seoul's industrial tempo. The lesson is clear: defense capacity lost is hard to regain, and in today's world, speed shapes sovereignty. What do you think?